Welcome, pudding people, to another episode of Everybody Loves Pudding. I'm your host, Ken Seymour. Today we have an exciting interview with an upcoming actress and dancer by the name of Adele Pomerenke. Thank you so much for coming onto our show.
Thank you for having me so much on your show.
Well, I'm always excited to talk to somebody that is in an industry that creates stories and creates something that kind of helps distract us from the world burning around us, is what it feels like.
hmm
Uh, so, what really intrigued me about looking into your history was that you have a very strong upbringing in a lot of different things. Um, so you are a dancer first and foremost. Is that accurate?
Yes, yes, at 3 years old.
At 3 years old, how do
Yeah.
you get? Now, a lot of people remember their parents going in. It's like, we're going to get you involved with projects. Was
Mhm.
it something like that, and it just kind of evolved into a love, or is it you will learn this, and this is part of our family history, sort of a thing?
I think more part of the family history sort of thing. Um, it was my grandmother. She was a dancer in New York back in like the 50s, and she did all the musicals, and like Annie Get Your Gun and all those big name ones. And so when I was born, like none of my aunts and my father, my aunt and uncles, my father, they did some dance but didn't click with them. And then she tried to kind of put it on me, and I ended up just really liking it. So it was probably 99% her.
That So you actually had you had that kind of connection. I know I was actually raised by my grandmother, and she had a giant influence on me, having that level of experience. I bet was a real boon. Was there ever an instance where, since she was kind of involved with it, if you were learning something, that there would be kind of that back and forth between her and whoever it was that was doing the production that you're in? It's like, no, you need to run it this way.
um I think it was kind of like her involvement was because I came from a really small town. So anytime I did a performance or anything, it was she wasn't with the dance moms, the dance mom environment.
Mhm.
She was never really with them and a part of that. She would come in her elegant, coats and her dancy looking, street clothes and drop me off or whatever. And yep. And it was just kind of like an unwritten thing that's Verlene's granddaughter that's dancing just like she did. And so, yeah.
That that's got to have a certain amount of just kind of I'm trying to look for the right word, just a bolster. It's kind of a lot of people, when they get into something, they're on it on their own, and
Yeah.
you have that kind of a resource, that kind of a support. There's the word I was looking for: support.
Sure. There
uh,
we go.
Coming from the person with a degree in English, I know the words.
Well, you
uh,
have so many words in there.
so what was it that really kind of bit you in dancing? Was there a kind of a moment where you were taking these classes, you were doing these performances, and then it just kind of hits you and go, oh, this is really something that I love. This is something that I want to take with me and to share with others.
Yes, it was just a safe place for me. I was kind of an oddball in school. Like I was not the usual girly girl. I didn't really fit in much with the other dancers. I never really have. Um, I love them dearly and appreciate them, but I've always been you know, it was someplace when I would dance, it was someplace that was safe for me. It was where I felt like I could be 100% myself, and it didn't really matter what anybody else thought, which it shouldn't anyways, but yeah. And that was
Well,
instant.
that's cool. And ballet, specifically ballet, is
Mhm.
pretty intense. There's a lot of, obviously, like anything that you want to do well, there's going to be a lot of practice, but there's a certain level of discipline, at least in my mindset, that when I see ballet, that is a step above a lot of other styles of dance. Was there something that in ballet that maybe other people don't know about that goes into making it work that's a little different than other types of dance?
Yes, I think how much you cross train outside of it, how much I have to do certain exercises for injury prevention. Because I mean, I don't know a ballet dancer past 21 that doesn't have something that they have to be careful of, like whether it be a sensitive ankle or hip, or and then just the amount of time that you have to put into it to just at least keep a level of, professionalism and being good at it. And then if you want to improve something, then the extra work in just that one area. So it's a lot of other dances and types of dance. You do have to cross train, but it's more so practicing the dance itself, the dance form itself. Ballet is a lot of strengthening, 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 stretching, 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 repeat.
That makes sense. Well, when you would
Mhm.
cross train, what would you cross train with? Are we talking like samba, salsa, just anything that you can get your hands on?
No, cross training was more like elliptical and therabands to strengthen muscles.
You mean actual
Yes.
cross training? I'm going in a completely
Yeah.
different direction.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh. I have a roller that's for rolling out your muscles, and um it it's kind of my child. I take it everywhere with me if I fly anywhere, and it takes up like all the space in my little suitcase, but it just I roll out all my muscles like every day, so there's always something. It's always something to do.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Do you have, I know I'm kind of fixating on ballet, but I don't get a lot of chance to talk to people that were in ballet.
Yeah,
What,
yeah, of course.
was there a specific performance that was your favorite? Are you kind of the classical? It's got to be the Nutcracker, or was there something else that is kind of your favorite expression of that particular art form?
I love contemporary ballet. I like new works done, but on point. So in the point shoes, um, anything like that that really shows off a lot of endurance and like the muscles and the length. Classical ballet wise, I'm just an old school nerd for the Nutcracker. Like I just love the Nutcracker. Done it basically every year of my life except this year.
Oh,
It's weird. Facebook is reminding me today that this time last year I was performing on stage, and I was like, "Oh, hmm." So it's kind of, yeah.
how has that affected you with everything that's going on? It's had a huge impact on the industry. How are you managing to cope with everything that's happening?
It's like a roller coaster. It's like one minute I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna take a class inside online for the millionth time in these past 8 months or so." I don't even know how long it's been. And then other days I'm just super heartbroken because I haven't been in a ballet studio. I think I went in a ballet studio inside once in June, the end of June.
Uh,
And that's so weird for me because I have lived in a ballet studio my entire life. And I feel super, super out of place now. I feel really weird. Hmm.
yeah, I can imagine that being the case.
Hmm.
But
It's fun.
you had training in a lot of stuff though too. I saw that you had one of my favorite things, a circus training. You trained with silks?
I did. Okay. So I went through a phase where I was like, ballet hates me and I'll never make it because, I was kind of the rocker hippie chick that, anyways. And I was like, I'm going to run away and join the circus. So I moved to Seattle and I went to circus school over there and learned static trapeze and fabric. And my grandmother had done contortioning as part of when she was a little girl, so she did some of that actually in some musicals. And I think in Oklahoma, I think there's a contortion scene that she did or something. Anyways, um, so I was like, I'm just gonna run away and join the circus. Well, they'll appreciate me. So that was a lot of fun, but I missed ballet and dance pretty quickly after that. But I still love, and it works your upper body a lot. And if you're going to be a ballerina, you got to kind of decide then at like 18 or so, 17, 18, like, am I really going to keep going with this or not? So I went with ballet.
That so okay, so what okay, this is the first thing that struck me. So I'm envisioning you in
Mhm.
these massive productions,
Yes.
these large scale theaters and ballet, and then you're in sawdust and in areas with what's the biggest part of culture shock maybe from going from ballet to training with the circus?
Culture shock. Hmm.
Was there any?
Um, the formalities of ballet that are not there. Ballet is, I call it the military of art form.
That seems fair.
Yes, it's, yep, that's it. Yeah. So it's kind of just, you get to go from, you know, all the rules in class or in rehearsal and the your, like I said, your formalities and being, proper and whatever you'd want to call it. And then you go to training at a circus school, and there's just people of all ages running around in bright colored leggings and yelling and laughing, and just like, I was like, oh, okay, I guess.
It's so bohemian.
Yeah, I don't have to ask to go to the bathroom. I could just go.
Uh, so is that training there? Is that what sparked the fires of rebellion that led to your joining a rock band, creating
The
heavy music?
fires, the fires of rebellion were born with me.
Uh,
They were. I was always getting in trouble. Like, I think I had a one-on-one with my dad. I was like, Dad, you know what? I don't blame you for any discipline you put on me as a child. I was rough. I was hard. Yeah, for no reason, because they were great. My parents were wonderful people. I was just a butthead. Like,
well,
oh,
isn't that all kids to a certain extent? We're all supposed to test those that come before us so that they're ready to kick us out of the house.
so when the time comes, they're done for sure. Yeah, absolutely. I've always been kind of rebellious. Like, I've always just wanted to do things a little different. Um, I have a tattoo. It's pretty big on my leg. So I remember one of the companies I was in, he was very concerned about me covering it up the right way. And I love that. I love that it bothered him. I don't know what's wrong with me, but
There's nothing wrong with that.
so
When the origin is how will all the people with the big monies react to ink art on somebody on stage? That tickles me
yeah,
just a little bit,
yeah,
pushing
it's
people
a
out of their
flower. It's
hey, I mean,
exactly.
that's the whole thing. That's you're making art, and part of the art is part of you, right? So,
Yeah.
all right. So, talking about the music, uh, so this was in Tennessee that you joined or created a band. Is that right?
I did. So I did some songwriting and tried to start a heavy rock, almost metal, borderline metal band, and I sang in that. Now, I had done choir my whole life, so like when my grandmother put me in dance, she put me in, you know, dancing and singing and musical theater training because that's what she did. And I was interested in that. So I did all of that stuff. Very, very fortunate to get to have so much training as a kid, by the way. So when I got to Nashville, I don't know what it is in the air in Nashville, but you just suddenly are like, I'm going to get into music, even if that's not your plan. So I did. And I wrote a song and I sold it for $12.
So
and
good
my
money.
and I got a yeah, right, and I got a plaque. This is what it means when you make it, by the way. And I got a plaque
Nice.
and it says my name, kind of. It's spelled wrong, very wrong, but I don't want to change it because I find it humorous and humble and real. And then I tried to start my own heavy band, and I couldn't get it to lift off. Just it's so difficult to get a group of three or four people together to just commit to getting something like that,
Well, yeah, there's a
done.
lot to that. You got to have
Yeah,
the time investment. You have to have the skill of everybody involved, and then just a truckload of luck on top of it.
yeah, just a truckload, absolutely. And I think I was just overexerting myself doing so much. I was doing that, and I was still dancing, and I was acting, and I just was. And then I had a day job, you know, I think I just was doing too much too, so probably wasn't able to give all the energy to it. But the classic rock cover band was actually back home when I moved back home in between living in Seattle and coming to Nashville. And that's when I just, some friends, let me come up on stage and sing backing vocals a few times at the bar when I was 20. And then they'd let me drink in the bar.
Always a plus, right?
The bar's not there now anymore, so I'm not getting anybody in trouble. Gee, I wonder why. So it's like, cool, I can come up and sing some music and get some shots. And then it just evolved from there, sang at some biker rallies, and yep.
Okay.
It was
Okay.
fun.
I have to ask, if you're going to be in the hard rock slash metal scene, usually there's some sort of interest preceding this. Who are the bands that kind of fired you up?
That fired me up. All right. Well, I'm an old soul, so I like my Van Halen. I like Pantera. I really like um, just kind of the older, heavier rock, and then the newer stuff, kind of more so like in this moment. That's an amazing female-fronted vocalist. I just love her voice. Um, what else was I'm trying to think of like kind of what the vibe was. Also, it was kind of like that 90s, late 90s, early 2000s type rock, like Corn,
Right.
Slipknot,
Nice.
Tool, things like that was probably a heavy influence too. So,
I know I was
especially for the bass player and the drummer.
I I was lucky enough to see Evanescence perform live.
Oh, cool. That would
That
be so
was
cool.
talking about a heavy band with a female front that just kind of just destroyed the crowd, and
Yeah.
we were all just stunned because it was before Bring Me Back to Life was played every 5 minutes on every station.
Yeah. That
So
still happens sometimes. Yeah.
yes, it
Hmm.
does. So many good bands out there to
Yeah.
just kind of build a certain amount of inspiration. Um,
Hmm.
so how do you transition from going dancing, and I've got some of this training in the circus, and I know I can sing. Let's do acting. How does that happen?
Right. So I guess so somebody was casting dancers and performers for a pilot for a show that was going to tour and needed people that could do multiple types of live stage. So they needed people that could sing, could dance, maybe do acrobatics, and it was supposed to be kind of like one of those, America's Got Talent, but not really a competition, more like a musical, you know, you make up a musical kind of thing. I don't really remember a lot about it. It was a while ago. So I got on to do the pilot and I filmed for a few weeks with her, and then she liked me a lot, and then she wanted to mic me, and I was like, I don't know what that means, but I found out what that means. And so I got mic'd up and started speaking some lines. And then she had another pilot she had written for a comedy show. So I got mic'd up and started speaking lines for that, kind of improvising a character, and kind of got a little bit of praise for that effort and ability that I didn't know I had. And I wasn't going to go back to Nashville Ballet that fall. Instead, I was going to go on tour with this thing that was supposed to happen. But last minute, it fell through, and I didn't have a contract for ballet company, which is very crazy and weird and scary for a young ballet dancer. So I was like, all right, maybe I'll get an agent, see if I can see what happens there. And there you go. That's how that happened. So that's how all of those different art forms I did randomly came together to get me into acting.
I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize about the industry and how it
Yeah.
works. How many projects are put together and just don't quite get to where they're going,
Yeah.
whether it's through production or whether it's through finances falling through or just unfortunate circumstances. For every one production
Right.
that happens, there's 100 that
Yeah.
just don't make it. and that can cause a certain amount of stress, I would expect.
Yeah, it does. I think, but I've learned to just settle into it now. I've learned that actually I think I've had more projects fall through and not work out than projects that did, and that's just how it is. And you just keep going. You know, you just the needle in the haystack kind of scenario. But you will find the needle. That's the good part. You know, the haystack's not too big, hopefully. Um, but you just keep going because failure, you can't, it's not failure because it didn't happen. It's
Right.
just part of it.
Yeah.
Just
So
part of
it's
it.
it's the ride that you decide to take.
Yep.
But one of the nice things,
Right. Yeah.
if you're in the industry long enough, at least from my perspective, I know this can't be everybody because I'm my own individual and weird in my own special snowflake way.
Absolutely. Yes.
But
And you should own that.
one of my favorite things, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'll go to a movie or to a television show because of the lead to a certain extent. But the thing that
Hmm.
I really enjoy is seeing the supporting cast that is maybe often only there for an episode or two, or they're in a lot of different shows and they keep popping up in different places. That's almost as much of a thrill in seeing something as anything else for me. So
Right. Yeah.
what you were in a couple of television shows too. You've had some roles in some television shows thus far since then, right? I thought I
Just little background feature. My face just pops up. That's it.
see that's the best.
Um, yeah. Yeah. Because later on, oh, yeah, there she was.
There she
Um,
was.
Yeah. So it's so weird. It's like later on when you get the bigger roles, people will backtrail the little smaller things that you've done prior to. Like I've done a few music videos and I'm sure later on that'll be interesting. She all starts somewhere, extra work, of course, that's where I started. I was like, let me go because this is the dancer in me because we're drilled so hard and we start at the bottom. I was like, let me go to the bottom of the totem pole of this acting thing and see if I can handle that, you know? Yeah. Hmm.
So okay, so let's get to present. Let's ask about the current production that you're involved in, Penitent Thief. This is a little different than what I've seen from your previous stuff. How did you get involved with this project?
There was just a breakdown of it online. So, you submit yourself for the role. And then I got the audition. I was actually in Knoxville. I was filming on a set for Murder by Numbers. It was one of those, um, it's actually really good. It's a good real life, like, where they reenact the stories of people that have been murdered or killed or horrible, like Snapped or Killer Couples or something like that. And
Right.
and I was actually there filming that just as it's a bank teller. I said like three things and gave the bad guy some fake money. Yeah, and and I got the audition. I had to do the audition in the hotel. Um, and then I just like quickly that next day, the director called me or wanted me to call. And we talked, and I was like, "Well, I'm in Nashville." And he's like, "Well, this is in LA." I was like, "Well, I can just be there. Don't worry about it." So
Mhm.
I luckily, had some support with my friends and family. It's very important. And I just flew there. I was there for like 3 days, and then I filmed it, and then I came back, and then I decided, well, if I'm flying to LA, I should probably move there at this point.
That makes sense. Plus, it's LA. I mean, who wouldn't want to be in LA?
Well, not right now. Nothing to do. There's nothing to
Under
do.
normal circumstances, I should.
Normal circumstances. The weather's great. Yes, and I love the ocean. So, yeah.
So, was there anything about this production that felt different from the ones that you had? A larger movie production compared to some of the other pieces. Was there something that kind of jumped out at you?
Probably the the community feeling of it. I remember being on a film set, and I won't say what it is, out of respect, but it was very stressful, and there was a lot of negative and you know people and environments happening, and it was just so grueling and tiring, and it was really hard to feel uplifted in that environment. Um, but then this set felt very warm, And I don't know if it's because it was actually warm or because I was in LA, but but it was smaller, and I just felt like I could talk to anybody there and get along with everybody really well. And that's probably what stuck out the most, just a really good sense of community and family on that set, even though it's just a couple days.
What was it like having scenes with some of the more seasoned actors involved, like Kevin Sorbo or James Russo? Did you get a chance to really interact with them and maybe get the benefit of their experience?
Yeah, it was it was good because it made me kind of, I'm still pretty new to, acting at the time. This was actually a couple years ago that we filmed this, so we've been waiting a while for it to come out. And so at the time, I was still, you know, figuring out, well, how to be an actor, really, let's be honest. So um, it just kind of made me step up my game, made me go, okay, let me, you know, let me take this moment to just sit back and watch and soak in and see and pay attention to the little details that they do. Maybe that's also a dancer thing, but to see, to just kind of watch by example, and try and better myself as an actor. And they were both really awesome too. Really, really cool people.
I have yet to meet Mr. Russo. I met Kevin Sorbo in 2007, and he seemed very warm, very approachable at that point.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
I have to, well, maybe it's just the imagining, all of the 5-minute conversation that I had with him. It's like, I bet he'd be a lot of fun to work with on a set. He seems like somebody that would be not only easy to get along with, but somebody that would be supportive, to be able to, like you're talking about, raise your game a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, he is. He's definitely all of those things. Yeah.
Um, so, did he ever accidentally break into being Hercules on accident?
On accident. On accident.
Just you're going through a scene, and then all of a sudden he wants to pick up
I don't think I, I don't think I was in any scenes. I was only in the two. I don't think I was in or around any scenes where he probably did. Maybe his interaction with James at one point might have been a little, but I think it was supposed to be that way. I don't know.
yeah,
I don't know. I think he just will always have a small slice of Hercules forever in his soul.
just a little bit. It's hard to get away from something that people will identify you with for forever and ever. So,
Yes.
were you familiar with the source material on this before you started the project?
Yes, I was actually. I thought it would be really interesting. I just love historical times as well. Like, I just love that. Ancient Egypt is probably one of my favorite things. I would love to be in a film that has something to do with that at one point. Um, yeah, I get the villain a lot. So that's basically all I get is the villain. And they always want me to smoke a cigarette. Oh my gosh. So I guess I make it look good. Which is not good. Don't smoke, everybody. Children, don't. It's not cool. Okay.
Hey, but being the
I
villain
did
is
for
the
like 10
best.
years.
The villain gets all the juicy dialogue and all the really neat
True.
stuff. That is my
It's
favorite.
fun.
Um,
It's really
so
fun. Yeah.
so okay, so with this source material, this is trying to take a slightly different tack on the
Yep.
pre-existing story. Instead of following some of what would be considered some of the marquee players, it's following some of the secondary people that were
Yes.
around this happening. Um, does this change the theme of the way that the movie comes out? Is what is the intended kind of kind of impact that they're trying to have with this film, do you think?
So I think a lot of like the Christian community, or the religious community that follows the life of Jesus Christ talk, there's a lot of brightness there. Like, he was so good. His life, he did this, but they don't talk about why was he good. It was because the world is so bad, and the world is a dark place. So this is kind of like, um, the stories in the Bible are dark. They're like
Yeah.
scary. Like, if you look at, they're scary. but the way they're written and the way we teach them since we're kids is like, oh yay, everything ended up okay and it's happy ever after. And that's fine, but there's also, to continue to grow in your understanding, of what was really going on there historically. I think people need to realize these were different times in the world, and they were very scary times. And it's a darker take on those biblical stories, especially
Sure.
this one specifically. Yeah, and how people just didn't have much of a choice but to do bad things just to survive sometimes for the sake of loving their family or taking care of their family or their lives.
Well, and that was one of the things that struck me as something that could be potentially interesting with this, and that
Mhm.
there's not actually a lot of um, historical. I'm trying to think of the words. There's not a lot of source material. There's not a lot of non theological based source material on, like, your character, for example. And
Mhm.
she's mentioned a couple of times, but is only talked about more in other like biblical texts. So how do you go about the process? I know it's not something that necessarily the actor themselves would be part of, but how do you go about filling in those blanks, do you think, to make the characters that are in this that don't have a lot of information necessarily feel real?
To feel real. So I really studied different kind of text on Herodias, different because the Bible's like you've got the NIV and then the King James and so many different translations. So I read a few different ones on her story and looked her up and what's said about her. And I think in one of the versions it basically just says she was like the most evil, like in some type of translation from Greek. And so I kind of thought about Disney villains.
Are you going to say Cruella de
Because
Vil? Is that the next thing that's going to come up? Is it Cruella? Because you
no,
got the cigarette and then you got
no.
evil Disney villain. Sorry, I
I know.
couldn't help it.
I'm
I
just
couldn't help it.
one day away from that being my next character. Yeah. So I kind of was thinking about Disney villains, and I was thinking about um kind of how like they're just evil. They're just evil for the sake of being evil. Because most people have a motive as to why they're bad. Hurt people. But there's not a lot of motive behind why she's the way she is. So you kind of have to create that backstory in your head. Like, what's going on historically? Why would she be so vain and so, just selfish and not think there's anything wrong with it? And, it comes back down to kind of the classic money, greed, and selfishness, you know, jealousy, and that's probably what fueled her the most. And then she was prideful because she was on top of the world and had so much control, and she knew that in a world where men had control and women were nothing.
Yeah, that can be an interesting avenue to explore because of the
Hmm.
inherent power structures being as uneven as they were. I mean, they may still not quite be
Hmm.
where they are supposed to be at this point, but particularly bad at that point. So, how do you um, how do you kind of, in the scenes that you're doing, how do you convey that evil um, to the camera? Is it kind of are you approaching, because this is why I was thinking, you've got that dance training. Is it about body posture? Uh, is it about
Absolutely.
yeah? How did you kind of convey that to the camera?
But she's calm. She's not manic. She doesn't have to prove anything. So she stands up tall. Like, even, I mean, Kevin Sorbo is crazy tall, but I'm sure she sees herself as just as tall, if not taller than him. Um, and just knowing, just basically very, very calm, very chest up, very proud, moving slow movements to say that she's comfortable in her skin, even though her skin is basically scales.
Nice. Well, stalking the
Mhm.
prey. Uh,
Yes, very much so. Yes, exactly.
nice. I'm definitely interested in how this production. When is Penitent being released? Do you know?
December 22nd,
22nd. It's right around the corner.
right
Uh,
in time for Christmas.
yeah, that's there's nothing that says Christmas like the beheading of somebody. Oh no, I really got nowhere I'm going with that. I just
Nothing says Christmas like a crucifixion.
that's right. uh, in some sense, yeah, kind of, yeah.
You
All
know,
right,
this year it fits the theme.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, let's go into something a little nice, a little not nicer, but certainly less death laden. Um, all
Okay.
right, we have a couple of questions that we always ask everybody that's on the show, and everybody thinks that it's going to be about pudding, and it's really not. But it is food related, so everybody loves pizza. Uh, are you a New York style pizza, a Chicago style pizza, or are you something else completely different?
I'm probably something else completely different. I'm one of those thin crust Canadian bacon pineapple people.
Oh, very
I
nice.
like the pineapple on my pizza. And sometimes I buy a can of pineapple and put more pineapple on
Uh,
it.
I know that that can get people to look at you funny, but I like the pineapple on the pizza too. I just kind of
Yeah.
don't mention it very often because I get things thrown at me whenever I suggest it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, you gotta
So,
stand proud with your pineapple pizza people.
right, right. I'll put anything on a pizza. I used to hate olives, and it wasn't until a pizza that's like, okay, olives actually
Yeah,
pretty awesome.
it's pretty good there. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
All right, so that's the easy one. That's easing into the question. How about something a little more geeky? So you've always been a little against the grain with the other dancers. Were you against the grain enough to be interested in comic books at any point?
Comic books. I wasn't really big. Wait, hold on. Actually, I did get into when I was like a preteen. I was really into the Archie comics.
Nice,
Archie and
nice.
Snoopy. You know, I did grow up with all those. Um, I didn't read a lot of comics later on. I was an anime nerd for a while there, though. Well, I still am. I've been keeping up on Princess Yashahime on Netflix, or wait, it's Hulu. I
Nice,
think it's on Hulu. Yes,
nice. Well, if you're an
I'm an anime
anime
nerd.
person, you should see Genshiken. That's my favorite anime of all time. I don't know if
Is
you've
it
ever.
of all time?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. You know how in network television days, Seinfeld was the show that everybody watched because it was the show about nothing. Well, Genshiken is to anime
Yeah.
kind of what Seinfeld is to everything else. It's a
Okay.
show about an anime club, and it's completely just off the wall, weird and fun and just silly. So I can't help it. If you've never seen that and you like anime, I think you get a kick out of it.
Okay. Okay. I'll have to check it out then. Yeah.
But
I haven't heard of it. Cool.
yeah, yeah. Okay. So with the industry being the way it is, with all of the comic books that ever existed being optioned into movies and television shows, so we ask
Okay.
people if you could be a character from any comic portrayed in the small or the big screen, who would it be?
Okay. Okay. There's a couple. Do you want two?
Hey, as many as you want to give.
Maybe two? So I think I would make a good Fury in the Wonder Woman universe. It's her estranged daughter from an alternate universe.
Nice.
I think that would be really cool. That's kind of like a secret role I'd like to do. And then um, Tank Girl, there. But I think that might already be about to happen. Tank Girl or Jet
Oh,
Girl.
are they redoing it?
Yeah.
Oh,
They might be. I feel like I saw something on IMDb about that might happen. Like some, but you never know. Things can sit there for 10 years and never move. So
right, right.
yeah.
It's kind of
Mhm.
funny. I was actually going because we always kind of have somebody that well, okay, it's all me, and my co-host is less of a comic book person, but who I think just from what I can see and what's going on. Actually, I was going to say Tank Girl. That's kind of funny. That was going to be the exact one I was
It's
going to
fun.
suggest
It's
for you.
fun.
That
I
is
love that. It's so good. And the movie's good. They don't need to redo it. It's so good.
it was really
I love
quirky,
it.
and
Yeah.
that actress
Ow.
was just fantastic. She is in one of my all-time favorite movies, being a League of Their Own. She was great in that,
Oh yeah.
and she's just
Yeah.
got a lot of energy, and it's kind of fun to see that in actors and actresses.
Hmm.
Um, so okay,
Yeah.
so I think that there's only one question that I have that is remaining, and that is relating still to kind of the sci-fi and comic book realm of things. Um, are you Marvel, DC, or other as your favorite? Now I'm thinking other, just from what you've mentioned already. Between Archie's and Tank Girls, not on the main roster of either of those companies. If you had to choose a company, what is your favorite publisher?
My favorite publisher. Hmm. I usually, when people ask me the Marvel DC question, I go straight to DC because I was grown up on the DC comics.
Yeah.
That's what I was grown up. Yeah, I grew up on those cartoons as well. I would like to say other, but I'm not versed enough in to know a lot of the other ones. I just know a couple, but
Well, DC
yeah.
is a good.
So
It's got a big
Marvel,
upside,
yeah, Marvel never really hit home for me. I didn't really know anything about Marvel
and that
yet
happens a lot.
until the movies. Hmm.
That definitely happens a lot. And kind of while Marvel's kind of got the dominance on the movies right now for a lot of people,
Exactly.
DC has
Yeah.
done just a much better job on the animated series. So
Yeah, that's true. And I love animation. Like I really have a lot of respect for that. I love it.
yeah, definitely very cool. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming to talk with us about essentially nothing for an hour, because I that's my favorite thing in the world to do. Talk a little bit about some fantastic movies coming out, and a little bit about what makes you you, and that everybody can see how interesting it is to be part of your world.
Thank you. Thank you. And thanks for having me. It was super fun. Yeah.
I'm glad I could have the chance to meet you. And until next time, folks, stay safe out there and keep on watching. Do not forget to check out Penitent Thief, coming out on the 22nd of December. And let us know what you think in social media. You, of course, can get a hold of us at Real Pudding Guys on Twitter, or at Pudding Guys on Instagram and Facebook. And you can get a hold of, or not a hold of, or at least see Miss Amp here. That's the good nickname, right?
That's
What
what
is
everybody calls me.
what's your social media of preference?
um, I'm on Instagram a lot. So at Adele Marie Pomerenke.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. Fantastic. A good way to keep track of somebody that's definitely going to be involved. Some really cool stuff coming up. But until next time, folks, keep tuned in.